everyone, welcome back to Shadowhunters Positivity. As I promised last week, today I will be doing the Shadowhunters TV show tag. And if you want to do this tag, go for it. Either send it to me via email or do it on your own channel and just link me to it because I definitely want to check it out. The first subject is Shadowhunters, and it's name 3 Shadowhunters that you love and tell us why. Now the first Shadowhunter, I'm so glad they introduced her to us and that they made her so complex and that she's not getting as much hate as I would have expected because of her role in TV show, and that's Lydia Branwell. I love her to bits. She is so fantastic. I think her character really brings another depth to the other characters, like the conflict with Izzy and the conflict with Alec and his choices. I think she was a really great way to show how complex this world is and how important it is for these people to follow the rules and not like step out of them in a way. And I really hope that she comes back next season because otherwise I'm gonna be really sad. I really enjoyed the character. Next Shadowhunter that I absolutely love in a TV series is Isabel Lightwood. I know there's a lot of negativity going around, especially on BookTube, about her fashion sense and such, and I don't know why, because when I saw like the first pictures of her, I thought, oh yeah, that is Isabel. Is like completely how I imagined her, especially when you look at the book and like description of her clothes and lines that she says, that is totally her. And I'm not very fond of people saying that she looks like a slut and such. Yeah, I said it because I don't see it, especially when you look at the book and TV show comparison. In the book, she is with Meliorn, but it's more like a very physical thing and she doesn't actually even care, and neither does he. And when you look at the TV series, there's actually something there, and which I never expected to happen. Is like, oh yeah, that's her fling thing. And there was actually something there, and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. That she actually has some relationships other than like the obvious Simon. And like, I'm so frustrated because of it that people would say such negative things about her when she is so good and she's all about girl power, and like that whip of her is like out of this world. Like I my appreciation for Emerald is like this high. When I see behind the scenes and she's like throwing their whip around, it's like actually amazing. Like, I don't know, I'm just, it is absolutely crazy and I love it. Third Shadowhunter that I absolutely love should be no surprise to anyone if you've ever seen my videos or my Tumblr page or really anything about me. My third Shadowhunter that I love is Alec Lightwood. Now, first disclaimer, this has nothing to do with Matthew Daddario's very beautiful face. I read The Infernal Devices first, and I was like, oh, Magnus is my favourite. And then I went, well, Magnus and Gem is my favourite. And then I went to Mortal Instruments and I was like, you're now second, it's fine. So, Alec Lightwood has always been my favourite, and I think for a TV show I was most nervous about that part because I needed Alec to be completely right, and I think the writers have done an amazing job with his character, because even though some of his actions are questionable, in his character, like how I've always seen his character, they make complete sense to me, like defending his family, putting them before him and such things, and like even his marriage, I was like, yeah, that makes sense in this universe, that makes sense in his character. I'm glad they went that way. There's literally not a single moment where I went, well, this does not make sense for his character, which I truly appreciate because it's hard to do, especially when the character is already so built because of the books. And I truly appreciate that, especially they made the characters, like all the characters, their own and in all unique ways that I all appreciate. But like, I figured that it might be hard to actually keep that complete essence, like a lot of other shows have lost when over the years, like, oh, the person used to be like this and now they're that, and it's not really how they're supposed to be. But so far the show is doing a really great job in portraying my favorite characters, and actually all the characters, in a way that makes sense to them. So I'm really grateful so far for that. Next question is 3 downworlders that you love. Now, the first one, also a very obvious one, is Magnus Bane. Now, that actually has a lot to do with the actor. Harisham Jr., with his dancing experience, has done something amazing in the movements of his character that it's really hard to explain, even when he's just doing magic, or if he's like talking, there's still like this thing with his hands that is very distracting, but are so Magnus, because he's always like wanting to be busy and wanting to move on to other things, and I really appreciate that, the softer side of Magnus, and I'm so grateful to have seen that like develop in a healthy way, and like the softer side of Magnus as something that you see in the Bane Chronicles or like very late in the books, and to have seen it like in this way, I'm very, very happy with that. Especially Harisham Jr. is an amazing actor, and like in a blink of an eye he's showing you different emotion, and I'm not sure how he does it, but it's just magical. The second downworlder that I absolutely love, should also come as no surprise, it's Simon Lewis. I'm actually really glad that they moved this storyline forward. For those who don't know, normally in the book he turns into a vampire in the second book, and the first book is very, I don't want to say that she's just running around after Clary while she's having adventures, but that's basically what it comes down to. He runs after Clary, he gets in trouble, and they have to save him, which is kind of what happens in like episode 3, I believe. But now they actually developed it that it was a bit more actiony, and that he wasn't just a character running after other character. Simon having his own storyline in season 1 is beautiful, and Alberto is doing such an amazing job with the character. Like the comical lines are very Simon-y, and like the emotional stuff also, like when he first comes out of his grave, and I was almost crying because of how good it actually was. Number 3 in downworlders that I love is Rafael Santiago. Now Rafael is very, very complex, and I think some people are still trying to figure out what to do with him, and are kind of confused about whether he's good or evil. And in a way I understand it, especially if you haven't read the books yet, but on the other side it's kind of annoying in a way, because then they're like showing Raphael as like a very good person and very selfless person for saving Simon and things like that, and it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna be like something, and nothing against the shippers, but you have to remember that most of the time if Raphael does something, he either expects something in return, or it's literally because he thinks that he's gonna get something out of it in the long run. Like Simon is his connection to the Nephilim, and if they want something, they're gonna have to get through him. Raphael is really a character about balance, but he's not a good character, but he's not a bad character either. He's more leaning toward bad, because he if it's not helpful for him, he's not gonna help you. It's like, that's just what it is. The next question is 3 relationships / friendships that you love. Now, the first one, let's just get this out of the way. I love what they've done with Malik. Like I said before, Malik in the books is very sudden in a way, especially when you read the first book and then you read the second book and you're like, what the hell, how did that just happen? Like, if you don't read the short stories or the Bane Chronicles, you're like, well, this makes no sense whatsoever. Like later in the books, you're like, oh yeah, they have a very good relationship, blah blah blah. But in the first one, it makes no sense whatsoever. Not that I mind. I love Malik in the books, but it. And they have done something in the series which I appreciate so much. They kept the essence of Alec, they kept the essence of Magnus, and they made them a couple and people who are attracted to each other in such a realistic way. And I kept getting like messages and asks like, oh yeah, but the wedding, and he's gonna go through with it, and like he's so mean, and what are they gonna do, and blah, blah, and all this hate and things that I didn't understand, because I felt like for the first time they were actually being very true to the relationship of Malik in like such a healthy way, and I absolutely loved it. Especially in the episode titled Malik, there's like this talk that Jace has with Alec, and Alec is just, he's so through with it all, and he doesn't actually know what to do, and I think that was so beautiful. It shows that he's very human in that, in his emotions, and it shows that he doesn't even know what to do. And like when he kisses Magnus, it's like, oh yeah, it was like a spur of the moment kind of thing. And I actually enjoyed that they still didn't know what to do afterwards, because that is good. Especially in episode 13, like that was a complaint about a lot of people, like the Camille thing. It was one of the most predictable things to come out of that episode, and let's be honest, that episode was quite predictable. But episode 13, like with the kiss, and then talk about immortality and mortality and dying, etc. I think it was such a good move, especially going into season 2, to get this out of the way. If you, like, basically the relationship about Malik in books, like, resolves for a great part about the problem that they have, that one is immortal and one isn't, until they get to that point where it's like, you know what, we should just live in the moment and not think about that anymore. And I think that when they move that conversation forward, I think it's really good that they're actually focusing more on this subject already than anything else. So that it's just like, if this when they start a relationship, I hope that they've already talked about it and have already reached that point of, yeah, but we should just live in the moment and we'll see. Then that saves us a lot of trouble in the future, which I hope that we won't actually get to, because I just really don't like that part. Not because it's just like, not because I ship Malik, but also because part of it was so childish in a way that they just wouldn't let each other explain what was going on. And just moving on. Let's move on. The next relationship / friendship that I love is Jace and Alec. I think it could use some work. There were parts in the series where I didn't understand Jace's actions. I didn't understand Jace's actions, and I didn't understand why he wouldn't trust Alec on his decisions. Especially since it's like, oh yeah, we're closer than brothers, we're fighting with same heart thing going on. And you have to take into consideration that like season 1 is like 2 weeks, I believe. Like it plays out in 2 weeks. Why, after a week, you would choose a side of a girl over someone you've known your whole life and is really closer to you than a brother? I never understand that. So I love their dynamic, but I hope that next season it's more like, oh, we're on the same side and we're gonna fight Valentine and demons together, which I've just realised it's kind of useless, isn't it? Because they're not on the same side right now. The next relationship that I love, I'm gonna go over really fast because I don't actually have much to say about it, but it's just Clary and Simon. I love the established relationship before the pilot that they have going on, and I love their dynamics, really like joking but like very in a sweet way, and I really appreciate the backstories and like the little tidbits that you get to hear about them, and I think their relationship was really on point, and fingers crossed that it continues like that. The next question is 2 episodes that you absolutely loved. Let's go over this really fast. first episode that I loved so much is obviously, like, I think most people would agree that it is definitely episode 12, Malik, and I think I've come to a point where I love it so much that when I watched finale for the first time, it didn't actually seem that spectacular. I've still only seen the finale like a handful of times, and I'm still like, well, but do you remember episode 12? It is definitely my favourite, but it also makes me kind of sad that I didn't enjoy the finale just as much. Second episode that I love very much is, I'm gonna say episode 10, which is This World Inverted. Just because seeing them in a different aspect is like quite fascinating, because you get to see, like, from the actors you get to see like a different side of them and different dimension of them, which I really enjoyed. Especially Emerald and Matthew, I think they did amazing with their characters. It was really fascinating to see them work, actually. Yeah, I really loved that episode, especially we got to see the cats, which I understand that Harry Shum Jr. is apparently allergic to cats. It makes me really sad that we'll never get to see them again, the, like, helpful, anything else. So, but I'm really glad that we did get to see them, even if it was like just a little cameo. It was like, oh yeah, but do you remember the cats? They were in there. The next question is 2 locations that you really enjoyed or loved, it, or whatever, like 2 locations. Now the first one is the Institute. Now I know a lot of people have complained about the Institute, that it doesn't look like old and that there's technology and there's other people walking around, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's quite logical. Something you can get away with in a book doesn't always come over as well on screen. And I think it would be a lot weirder if it was just like a very old like place and there weren't people walking around. And it's like, oh yeah, but Clave is coming. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I think it makes a lot more sense that there are people walking around. Even though it doesn't make sense that they're like, oh yeah, you're 20-year-old, you're 19, I'm 25, oh, but you're in charge. It's all good. Like, that's an aspect that's like, okay, there are apparently some ranks going on there. But for the other part, I'm like, yeah, it works. It helps them a lot, clearly. And, like, they still have their witch zones, as they still have, like, special means of tracking. So I'm not mad at it. I don't mind it at all. I think it's good. And the second place that I loved was Magnus' apartment. It's very him. I love the red doors. Statues going on from who knows when he got those, and there's like paintings, and his bed is like the grandest thing you've ever seen, and there's like a cocktail bar stand, and it's like, you're not doing too bad, are you? Next question is a weapon that you love, and I'm going to say the bow and arrow. I just love the idea that it's like far distance and it takes a lot of precision, and props to Matthew Daddario for actually training and making it look amazing on screen. I was like, damn, skills all around. The next question is favorite concept. Now I've got a lot of questions about this question because people didn't understand what I was trying to say with concept, and what I saw as a concept at that moment, but I've seen like other interpretations of it by now, was like a term or word or sentence that makes sense in the Shadow World and in the book universe and the TV universe, but doesn't actually have meaning anywhere else. For example, I think my favourite concept is definitely runes. Like, in the way that Shadowhunters world works, it doesn't have that particular definition in any other universe or anything like that. So runes, definitely. I love the idea that you can like have courage or speed or sight just by drawing something on your skin. It's like the idea of being a Shadowhunter has always been quite fascinating to me, and that's part of why. Yeah, I really like the runes, especially in the show. Actually, I think the show that is something that the movie couldn't, and like in the movie they look like very harsh and they're always like looking like tattoos. But I love the idea of like it being branded in, and then if you use it often it's like a very dark color, and if you don't use it that often it starts to fade. Really like that aspect of it. And the last question is favorite family dynamics. Now, if we were talking about relationships and friendships, one of my top 3 would definitely be Alec and Isabel, because I think their relationship is just on point. But I figured I could just talk about Lightwoods all together and then I'd have it all. So, favorite family dynamic is definitely the Lightwoods. And I am so grateful. I think I've seen this like grateful like a million times in this video. But for those who don't know, in the books, there's like a very strong dislike between the parents and between Robert Lightwood and Alec Lightwood, because like you're kind of homophobic, like kind. So there's kind of that aspect, and I was like, and when I first saw Robert Lightwood and he was being so nice, and I was like, no, I don't want this to happen. And I'm grateful that they don't seem to be going in that direction, that it's more like, well, you shouldn't have chosen Magnus, which personally I am fine with, that is their reaction, because I've seen them react a lot worse. And in like, so to a certain degree I completely understand the parents, like, but he's been around for quite a long time and he has quite a reputation, so I totally understand what they're coming from, and I also understand where Alec is coming from, like, yeah, but you don't know him and I'm going to know him, which is like very nice, especially since he has seen like a softer side of Magnus. How does it come down to Malik again? Well, anyway, I love their family dynamic. Max is like the cutest thing ever. I love the dynamics between Isabel and Alec, that really like sibling dynamic, and that need to protect each other, and I appreciate that so much. It's so beautiful to see them wanting to protect each other but sometimes not knowing how to, or thinking that the other is in the wrong but still wanted to protect him, and it's like, oh, my poor babies. And I really loved it. I've always loved the Lightwoods. They're like very complex family. They don't have like the greatest past of all of them, so it's always like, and what are you gonna do now? And especially when like it comes to light that they've been in the circle and things like that, I think it's very fascinating to see everyone's reaction to it. And people who did know is like, oh, you didn't know that? That's very awkward right now. I was like, okay. And I really hope to see a lot more of the Lightwoods all together in the next season, because they're my favourites. But I think I'm gonna end it there, because otherwise these videos are gonna be quite long. Yeah. If you want to do this tag for yourself, feel free to do so. Feel free to tag whoever you want. And I hope you have fun with it. And remember, be positive. Bye.